So we have already seen these things, but we'll quickly run through some of the few previous passages. Savitri is attending to all the household jobs, the labor of broom and jar and well, of altar and kitchen. No slight task allowed to others that her woman's strength might do. The whole idea is here. In all her acts, a strange divinity shone. In all her acts, a strange divinity shone. It's a great compliment to Savitri, of course. Now, the question one could ask is this poet's reading of the whole situation, or is it that Savitri herself realizes that in all her acts there is a strange divinity working? So what do you say? I believe this is what the poet is seeing behind every action of Savitri. Savitri herself is not perhaps aware in that sense. She is doing it routinely as a very natural kind of a thing. She doesn't have to go and do as if intentionally, purposefully that the divinity shines in all her acts. She is doing it in a very spontaneous, natural manner and all that thing, you see. So she does not even realize that she is doing something of that kind. But this poet notices it. The poet notices, he observes it, he sees that thing into simplest movement. And why is he saying that? Because all love was hers, and that love is one which is binding her to all. Now this is important when we are seeing the latest situation in the psychology of Savitri, which is being described here. Savitri is in the company of her husband. He is giving her all that he can give, but that is too little for her need. Too little from both the points of view. That the time duration is too short and she would like to have everything of that in the time available for her. Too little because she is much vaster than all the human relationships. And to a certain extent, what Satyavan is giving to her is a human relation. That is not going to do for her. It's not sufficient for her at all, you see, obviously. And then all her acts divinity shone, and her love is binding to everybody. Therefore, we have got now this remarkable passage. Although with a vain imaginary bliss, a fiery union through death's door of escape, she dreamed of her body robed in funeral flame. She knew she must not clutch that happiness to die with him and follow, seizing his robe across over other countries, travelers glad beyond into the sweet or terrible beyond. She is weighing the possibility, the pros and cons of going as Sati, when her husband will die and his body will be on the fire. She will also plunge into the fire and burn alive in that flame. She is weighing the pros and cons of that thing, but she immediately dismisses that. Firstly, going like that is vain imaginary bliss for her. It may be, she doesn't know definitely whether that act will really give her true bliss. true bliss. So it could be an imagination to burn oneself and be happy like that, you see. And because it is imaginary, therefore it is vain. And Savitri is dismissing that thing, not because of the imaginary bliss, but because for those sad parents still would need her here. That is the most important thing. It is that which is holding her back. Satyavan's mother and father, they are old, there is nobody to look after them, and if she also goes away along with Satyavan, who will take care of them? So, I mean, it is not just a human relationship that as if kind of a social obligation she has to do that. Not at all. Because it is the love that binds to everybody. It is not her relationship with her husband, but what about the whole world? What about the whole world? How can she go away like that? How can she go away? Her intimacy, her contact, her oneness with the world is definitely weighing very strongly in her thought, in her consideration. And she says, no, I can't go like that. They have to be. So this is not that she is becoming passionate and looking after the old parents at all, see. But this is the way of saying that her contact with this earth is firm. Her oneness with the creature kind here has to be always there. She can't walk away from this world like that for her personal individual bliss. Yes, by going as a sati, she would get all that bliss. But then that is her personal bliss. For her, that is not going to do. What about the whole world? In other words, she is, though not fully conscious, overtly, there is something in her. Look, perhaps I have come here for some work, and how can I walk away from this work without doing that work? The work in the oneness of this whole creation here, you see. For those old parents still would need her here to help the empty. That's the way you are saying, I mean, hopefully we are saying. Now, but the fact that the poet is introducing the idea of sati here in the description is pertinent. He is not going to do it for trivial reasons, for artificial reasons, for small reasons at all. In other words, there is a certain value, certain content, certain stuff in the whole psychological and spiritual aspect of going as sati. And in order to highlight that thing, he is introducing it deliberately in the entire course of the description here. Now, it is a different matter that in the process of social development, social traditions, it got degraded. But that does not take away the original value of going as sati along with the dead husband. That does not go away, that value. It has a certain content in that music. The relationship between the two is so intimate that it can last for 7 lives, one after the other. And therefore she is perfectly justified from that angle. Well, by going, it does not mean that I disappear. I come again with him next time and live again like that, you see. There is an occult content in that thing. It is a different matter, as I said, that in the social tradition, it got totally degraded, debased, vulgarized even to some extent, and it had to go away. That had to be stopped, you see. Now, the idea of sati is a very old idea. Idea in the sense that the spiritual content of it, the meaning behind it. In the Mahabharata, around 3000 BC, you see, means 5000 years ago, there is a mention of one of the wives of the Pandava's father had gone as sati. He had two wives, Madri and Kunti. So when Pandu passed away, then Madri went along with him as Sati. In the Mahabharata is mentioned, and she got glorified. Her spirit shone, as we have seen in the case of Satyavan, her spirit rose from the burning fire, luminous spirit, luminous Satyavan. Same way, her spirit also got merged in the spirit of her husband, you see, in that process. Madri went away as Sati there. Madri, again, a woman who is coming from Madra, Ashwapati's palace is Madra, capital city, you see. She had come from that place, you see, Madri. There is a mention of that thing, you see. And there are many other incidences also in the Indian tradition which are describing this act. But let me narrate a few aspects of it. Sati, as I told you last time, etymologically, the word comes from Sat. Sat means truth, who sacrifices himself for truth. Sati is the feminine of Sat, true. His feminine is Sati, given to truth. Sati means given to truth. In the conventional sense now, Sati means chaste woman. Woman. A woman, chaste, who will have relationship with none except her husband. Chaste, C-H-A-S-T-E. Chaste woman. What happened? No. Yeah. Well, that is what the Sati means, basically now. Now, I told you the story of Dakshayani, the daughter of Daksha. Daksha was a king, Prajapati, originator of a human race, Prajapati, and he had performed a Vedic sacrifice, and he did not invite his son-in-law for the sacrifice. It was a huge, majestic, royal sacrifice in a very lavish manner and all that thing. He did not invite his son-in-law, that is Shiva, because Shiva is a sannyasi, an ascetic, who will run away from the world, see like that. So he did not want to come, him to come here for such a function like that. He did not invite. But his daughter was there and she felt insulted. That big yajna is going on and my husband is not invited, my father is not inviting him, so she felt insulted. And as a result of that, she burned herself in the flame, Dakshayani. And that is the first Puranic recorded incidence of Sati that is given as an example of Sati. Then when Shiva came out of his trance, out of his meditation and saw that his wife is not there now anymore, then he took the form of anger, Raudra, violence. What is this? That kind of a thing, you see. And then from every bone of her burnt body, he created a woman, Parvati, out of his tapasya. And then they espoused and lived together. So Sati came back again to live with him in another form, in that, you see. By the power of his tapasya, he brought her back to life from the burning pieces of her body, you see, that, you see. That is the Sati. She was not invited, but Sati came. Now, there are records of Sati when Alexander the Great invaded India about 300 BC. Then the philosopher, BC, yeah. Then the philosopher who was accompanying him, Aristobulus, Alexander's was also having a philosopher in his retinue, Aristobulus. He had recorded all the events and happenings wherever Alexander had gone there, and he has also recorded certain observations about India, when Alexander came to India at that time. And there he mentions that in Takshashila as we call it, Takshashila, that is the present Tashkent. Yeah. When he came there, he recorded a woman burning herself in the fire as Sati. So that is the Greek record of the Sati in 300 BC, around that time, you see. Then it continued like that. There are official records during the period of Gupta dynasty, that is about 400 AD, 300, 400 AD, you see. And they have recorded a lot of events where women had gone as Sati, voluntarily Sati, you see. But Sati was stopped officially in the early Muslim rule in India. The early Muslim rule in India was from 1200 to roughly 1500 AD, for 300 years. What is called the Sultanate. The Sultans who came to India, they ruled India, and they had passed orders at that time that if a woman wants to go as Sati, she has to take official permission before she does it. Yeah. She has to take official permission to go as Sati. She cannot just go and burn herself like that, you see. But basically, that is what happened. Later on, during the Mughal period, 1500, 1600 AD, about 400 years ago, little more than that, Akbar the Great officially passed an order prohibiting Sati. Officially passed an order prohibiting Sati, you see. But still, after that, the tradition of Sati continued here and there in different parts, you see. Because after all, they could not, exercise their power at the traditional level, at every point there, you see. If a woman goes, it will be known later on, but by that time the woman would have gone away, you see. By 18th century, the practice had been banned completely. Then came the period of revival of India, the Renaissance. And one of the important figures during 1800 or so, 19th century, middle 19th century, the name is Raja Ram Mohan Roy. You must have heard of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He was the social reformer, and he saw that no woman, of course his influence was in Bengal, no woman in Bengal goes as Sati. The point was basically the widow was forced to go as Sati. It's not a voluntary act. She was forced to go as Sati, you see. And it is that he says, no, stop, you see. And that became a very powerful tool for social reformation at that time, you see. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a great reformer, social reformer, you see. In fact, he was a modern person in his ideals and thoughts and activities also. At the same time, he had imbibed all the good traditions of India. He had kept both. What is positive, what is good, that he had kept. At the same time, he had a very modern mind of looking at things, that is social problem. And he used to have 2 bungalows, 2 palaces. 2 palaces, bungalows. Raja Ram Mohan Roy used to have two houses, 2 palaces, you see. And in one house, in one palace, he used to have everything going on according to the Indian tradition. Receiving guests, receiving friends, welcome, all those kind of things. In the other palace, he used to entertain the Europeans. So that is how he combined both the East and the West at that time. You see, he had two palaces, you see, one specially reserved for the Western society, the other for observing Indian traditions, you see. So that was his solution of changing things, you see. Now, in 1829, sati was banned officially as an act in Bengal, particularly in Bengal. In 1980, recently, about 30 years ago, it was officially banned in Rajasthan. Officially banned in Rajasthan. Now, of course, it doesn't happen, but it was officially banned in Rajasthan. But there is something very noble also of going as sati. When the Muslim invasions were taking place in the western part of India, particularly Rajasthan, then the Rajputs warriors used to fight very bravely, but then used to get defeated by the Muslims, and many of the heroes would get killed in the process. Now, as a collective effort, collective action, all their widows would plunge simultaneously in the burning fire of their dead husbands. That is called Jauhar, Jahur. Just sacrifice yourself. I don't want to get immolated by these invaders. Because what will they do? They will immolate me. They will capture me. They will make me slave. Why should I go and do that kind of a thing? Instead, let me burn myself in the fire. The Jauhar was a very noble tradition in that sense, you see. And it was a very spontaneous, immediate kind of an action. And collective. 300, 400 ladies burning all together along with the fire of their dead husbands, you see. And that had made a tremendous impact also in the entire custom tradition. But of course, that was history about 300 years ago, 200, 300 years ago, you see, when there were constant Muslim invasions on the western part of India, you see. Jauhar, Rajasthan, Rajputs is a great historical event in that sense, is in India, you see. In the south, Bangalore and that region, there were 5 Muslim kingdoms, small kingdoms, you see, and they had fought a combined battle against the Raja of Vijayanagar, the Hampi Empire, which was so glorious and beautiful. He was the king at the time, most flourishing king. I mean, individually they tried to defeat him, Vijayanagar Empire, but he was very powerful. Then these people, although of each other's enemies, they came together to defeat him. And the battle at Talikota, I think the date is there, I got it, 26th January 1565. 1565, all these 5 Muslim kings came together and fought the battle against the king of Vijayanagar. And he was defeated. And as a result of that, a large number of widows of the heroes there, they sacrificed themselves along with their dead husbands, you see. Large number of heroes, you see. Now, it has an occult impact. You see, it may look traditionally, socially, etc., something very rare, but it has certain occult meaning. You see, that kind of a sacrifice does not go waste. It brings something back to the country and to the values of life here, you see. So that way, it continued like that for several. Now, of course, it is dead. It is not there. Although, very, very stray incidences do take place in backward parts of the country, you see, where this woman is forced to go along with her dead husband, you see. But if that act is caught, how many people are punished for that criminally, you see. So that way, sati has certain meaning, certain content, certain value also, occult basis is there, And Sri Aurobindo is not introducing, the yogi is not introducing this aspect here in the poem for nothing. He is introducing it with a certain deliberate purpose, that there is an occult meaning. By going there, you are kind of forcing your vital, your spiritual will to achieve something. That is the gain in the entire movement of the thing, you see. I mean, although socially it may look very ugly to us, but the occult gain which comes out of that is something very valuable also, you see. It may be a kind of a violent action of forcing the issue, but that action brings certain merit also, you see. So, therefore, there is a purposeful mention of this aspect. Although with a vain imaginary bliss of fiery union through death's door of escape, she dreamed of her body robed in funeral flame. Absolute sati description, you see. She knew she must not clutch that happiness, to die with him and follow, seizing his rope across our other countries, travelers glad into the sweet or terrible beyond. See, purposeful description is there. See, it's not dismissed that act. For those, and then the counter is, well, Savitri cannot go sati. Savitri cannot. Dakshayani is going a sati because her husband is insulted. She is burning herself. But Savitri's case is that what about this world? What about these poor people here around? If I go away, who is going to take care of them? That oneness of love is what holds her back from all that action. For those sad parents still would need her here to hold the empty remnant of the day. Often, now, see, this is a very intense moment in the life of Savitri. She is even weighing the possibility of going as sati. See, it is an extremely strong, intense moment. Therefore, often it seemed to her the age's pain had pressed the quintessence into a single woe, the entire woe of the universe, of the creation, going on for immemorial time. Age after age, it is gathering, accumulating. And it is all that pain had now got gathered into her pain and pressed their quintessence into her single woe, concentrating in her a tortured world. So that is the kind of an identity Savitri is realizing with the world. Yes, the world is tortured world. She is also feeling now that kind of an anguish in her soul. What about this world? How can I go away from this world? What about that bond of oneness, of love, which she is holding with her? Thus, so that conflict is there of going as sati or staying back for the sake of this tortured world. That conflict is there in her soul. Thus, in the silent chamber of her soul. So, what is the issue? What is the way out? What is the resolution for that? Savitri does not argue at all anymore. She retires into a silent chamber. She steps back into the depths of her soul. Last time I told you, Savitri enters into her house of meditation. So it is in the silent chamber she is going back now. Now this is again very, very remarkable. It is really yogic that in this intense moment of anguish, of conflict, she is able to retire from everything and step into the silence of her soul. Cloistering her love to live with secret grief, she dwelled like a dumb priest with hidden gods, unappeased by the wordless offering of her days, lifting to them her sorrow like frankincense, her life the altar, herself the sacrifice. So, frankincense, she is offering that incense to the fire. Her life itself has become that kind of a thing. Her life, the altar. Now, in fact, this sacrifice, this burning of Savitri is really the glorious aspect of she going as Sati. She has made the inner sacrifice and she has offered herself totally down from within to the divine fire. Her life, the altar, herself, the sacrifice. So this is in fact more powerful, more significant, more beautiful also than simply burning physically on the fire of her soul, of her dead husband. You see, her life the altar, herself the sacrifice. Yet ever they grew into each other more, until the same no power could rend apart, since even the body's walls could not divide. They, as I told you last time, Satyavan and Savitri, you see. Savitri is considering all the possibilities and they are becoming more and more united in a different way, in an occult way. Grew into each other more until it seemed no power could rend apart. Means in the subtle physical, they had joined each other totally, and in the subtle physical, it is impossible for anybody to separate them apart. Physically, walls of physical is there, but their union is now in a different plane altogether. Since even the body's walls, because says even the body's walls could not divide. Now, this is happening because she has done this Sati act already. Savitri has done the Sati act already because her life, the altar, herself, the sacrifice. Her life, the altar, herself, the sacrifice. Because of that, because the Sati act which she has performed, the body walls could not divide them. That is the kind of a physical union she has established in an occult way by doing that Sati act, lifting to them the sorrow like frankincense, her life the altar, herself the sacrifice. Now, before we go to that, she dwelled like a dumb priest with hidden gods, unappeased with a wordless offering of her days. She is pouring herself constantly. She is sacrificing herself, but the gods are not happy. They are not appeased. They are not satisfied with the sacrifice Savitri is offering. They are not satisfied at all with the sacrifice. This is basically a reference to what we have right in the beginning. In the very first canto, 2.34. See, now he has already described that situation of Savitri right in the first canto, what we are now seeing here. In Book 7, Canto 1, what we are saying, he has described that thing already in the very first canto itself, Savitri's condition. Her house of nature felt an unseen sway, illumining swiftly her life's darkened rooms. See, she is in anguish. She is not sure what she is going to do. And memory's casements opened on the hour, and the tired feet of thought approached her door. Tired feet of thought, he says. There he speaks of silent chamber. Savitri retires into the silent chamber. The thoughts are now tired of coming again. What to do, what to do, what to do. They are stopped now, you see. And the tired feet of thought approached her door. And then with that, what happened then? When there is no thought at all, then all came back to her, earth and love and doom. In a silent chamber, all came back to her, earth and love and doom. Earth, because of her concern for the evolutionary growth here on earth. Earth symbolizes that, you see. Love, the divine presence who is in the grip of death. Doom, death himself standing there. The shadow of the inconscience, of the utter void. They are standing there. They are all coming. See, now these are absolutely cosmic powers. Earth, love, doom. They are now meeting Savitri here. Savitri as the individual. In other words, she has already grown to that stature that the basic elements of the cosmic creation have entered into a reckoning. The ancient disputants, you see, they have been there ages long, right from the beginning of this creation. Ancient disputants. Answered her like giant figures wrestling in the night, wrestling in the night. Savitri is sitting there by the side of her sleeping husband in the night. And all that conflict is going on within her. Her husband is sleeping there. She is there sitting. And this constant conflict is going on in her soul. Wrestling in the night. Earth, love, doom. What is going to happen? What is going to happen? What is going to happen? See. And who are these ancient disputants? They are the goddess from the dim inconscient born. The godheads from the dim inconscient born. Earth, born from inconscience. Love, born from inconscience. Doom, born from inconscience. How is earth born from inconscience? Because it is there the flowering of the divinity has to take place, not from above. Earth is placed there in inconscience, and it is from that the evolutionary soul has to come up and grow and flourish. From the inconscience it has to grow and come up and flourish. Love, Satyavan had taken the station in the inconscience. He is there. The moment the separation between the four powers of the divine took place, the separation, the origin of this creation, then the void was seen and the divine plunged himself into the void, and that is what the mother says, the avatarhood of Satyavan. When the separation took place from the divine, then the divine himself plunged into that void and stationed himself in the void, and that is what is Satyavan in the void. Therefore, he is a Godhead born from the inconscience. And doom, of course, death is coming from that place itself. Like giant figures wrestling in the night, the goddess from the dim inconscient born awoke to struggle and the pang divine. That is what Savitri is experiencing now. The quintessence of the entire world's anguish, woe, is now in her soul. In her soul. And that is the pang divine. The divine pang is it. The divine pang, because the divine himself is feeling the suffering of this particular process. And Savitri is identifying herself with that divine pang. You see. It is that intensity of identification of Savitri with the divine pang which takes her further in her works. There you see. That is what we are seeing now in the first canto of the 7th book. And in the shadow of a flaming heart, at the somber center of the dire debate, the debate, the conflict between Savitri and death, which will take place later on. A guardian of the unconsoled abyss, He is death. He is not going to get consoled. Howsoever you may like to please him, howsoever you might like to sacrifice, whatever you might like to sacrifice to him, he is not going to get appeased. He is not going to get peace at all, you see. A guardian, and he wants to hold it on because that is his, so to say, job. To present the maximum, the utmost, the most powerful kind of antagonism that is possible against the divine. Inheriting the long agony of the globe, a stone still figure of high and godlike pain. Godlike pain. So that pain itself now has taken that godly shape. Pain, P capital. A stone still figure of high and godlike pain stared into space with fixed regard. So that godlike pain is now looking into the eyes of Savitri. Into the pain. Stared into space with fixed regardless eye that saw grief's timeless depths, but not life's goal. It knows, it sees one part of it, but not the goal of this life at all, you see. Stone still figure of high, godlike pain. That is what Savitri is experiencing here now in the music form. That saw grief's timeless depth, but not life's goal. Afflicted by his harsh divinity, yes, he is very cruel. Yet he is divine. There is a kind of a purpose behind that, so to say. Bound to his throne, he waited unappeased the daily oblation of her unwept tears. She is not really weeping, the tears are not really flowing. They are there, her eyes are filled with tears. And she is pouring those tears, but this gentleman is not happy at all. He is not appeased, is not satisfied at all. Unwept tears. He is constantly pouring that thing. All the fierce question of man's hours relived. So that is what has happened in the case of Savitri. All the fierce question of man's hours. How can she ignore? How can she forget her poor parents-in-law and go away as Sati along with her husband? How can she? The fierce question, it is that which is keeping Savitri alert about the whole affair. Man's hours really, the sacrifice of suffering and desire, earth offers to the immortal ecstasy, began again beneath the eternal hand. Savitri is now appeasing the god of death, doom. He is not appeased at all. And the sacrifice is going on. Again he says, the sacrifice, the altar which we have seen just now. Her life an altar and sacrifice, you see. All the fierce question of man's hours relived, the sacrifice of suffering and desire, earth offers to the immortal ecstasy, began again with Savitri, beneath the eternal hand. So that moment has come now. Began again. When? At this particular moment. Awake, she endured the serried march and looked on this grey, smiling, dangerous world and heard the ignorant cry of living thing, the ignorant cry of living thing. It is that which holds her back. Her sad parents, parents-in-laws are present here. The ignorant cry of living things, you see. It is that she is feeling. Amid the trivial sound, the unchanging scene, her soul arose, confronting time and fate. So it is at that moment now, Savitri is waking up, getting up, and things are happening here. Thus, in the silent chamber of her soul, cloistering her love to live with secret grief, she dwelt like a dumb priest with hidden gods, unappeased with the wordless offering of her day, lifting to them her sorrow like frankincense, her life, the altar, herself, the sacrifice. Now, what we have here is in the 7th book, Canto 1st, and what we are here, all that we have seen, is in the very first canto itself. This whole thing is in the very first canto itself. Second section, 35th sentence. You see, he has already put that thing in advance. Now, there is a difference between what we have in the first canto, the Simple Dawn, and we have in the first canto of the Book of Yoga. There is a difference. Although the descriptions are the same, what is happening in the Simple Dawn, in the first canto, 2.35, is actually in the transcendent. This is happening in the transcendent. What is happening here is on the physical plane of the earth, human Savitri. So this is the condition of the divine Savitri who will take here the human birth. She will experience this kind of a thing. The divine Savitri, when she will take human birth, she will undergo all this. It is kind of anticipated right at the beginning that the divine Savitri will come and she will experience all these things. That this god of death will remain unhappy, unsatisfied in spite of her offering oblations to him continuously. It is already seen up there in the first canto. Now that is getting actualized on the physical plane here in the first canto of the 7th book. So Savitri, human Savitri is now experiencing. The divine Savitri is there behind human Savitri. So she is experiencing now, the divine Savitri is experiencing all that she had experienced earlier through the divine Savitri, through the human Savitri at this point here, you see. So it is not exactly the same description in terms of the significance behind it. Although the parallel is quite there, unappeased. He also uses the word unappeased. Unappeased with the wordless offering of her days, unwept tears. There he says unwept tears. Waited unappeased. This is happening on the physical plane now. Here. In the case of the human Savitri. It is the divine Savitri behind human Savitri who is now physically experiencing this thing. Her life, the altar. Therefore, her life has become the altar. The parallelism is absolutely remarkable. You see, I mean, the poet, as a yogi, you can see with what kind of depth and implications he has described everything. You see, her life, the altar, herself, the sacrifice. Yet, well, the rest is a description, but this is important, this particular paragraph, this particular sentence, you see. And here it says again, concentrating in her a tortured world. You read the same thing. All the fierce question of man's, I was relieved, tortured world. Fierce question, tortured world. The sacrifice of suffering and desire, earth offers to the immortal ecstasy, began again. This is what Savitri is beginning now, you see. Awake, she endured the moment, serried march. So Savitri is now becoming alert. She is becoming now yogically ready to move forward. Move forward. And looked on this green, smiling, dangerous world. Green, smiling, this whole beautiful world. You see, and heard the ignorant cry of living things, her sad parents-in-law. You see. Amid the trivial sounds, the unchanging scene, her soul arose, confronting, her soul arose to confront time and fate. Here, the soul is about to arise for her yoga to begin. Her yoga of housing the divine Shakti in her soul. Her soul arose. So this is the whole long preparation for her soul to kind of get ready to proceed further. Her life the altar, herself the sacrifice. Yet ever they grew into each other more until no power could rend, as I told you. I mean, they had joined together completely, fused, two fires burning in one flame. In the subtle physical, they have united totally, and the physical cannot separate them away from it. For when he wandered, so now the poet is describing, kind of elaborating for our benefit, how they were always together. That for when he wandered in the forest, her conscious spirit walked with him and knew his action as if in herself he moved. He, less aware, trailed with her from afar. Satyavan is not aware, but Savitri is aware, she, all the while, she. As when he wandered in the forest, her conscious spirit walked with him, because in the subtle physical, she has totally united with him. That is the conscious spirit. So she is there always with him in subtle physical, and knew his action because of that. What he is going to do, what he is working on the physical plane, because she has now identified herself. He is now in him in the subtle physical. He says, no, body's walls could not divide. No. Her actions as if in herself he moved. You see, everything is happening now in the subtle physical, all these things you see. She has opened out herself fully, you see. He, less aware, obviously, he, less aware, trailed with her from afar. Always the stature of her passion grew. Grief, fear became the food of mighty love. Increased by its torment, it filled the whole world. It was all her life, became her whole earth and heaven. Now there is something again tremendous here. Although life born, this grief, this anguish, this woe is not native to Savitri at all. It is born of life. She has taken the human birth, and therefore it is human life born. An infant there was. He is growing, he is a child, he is a babe. The soul is growing. In the early stage of evolution. Although life born, an infant there was, Immortal, it walked unslayable as a god. What is that it? Increased by its torment, it filled the whole world. It, that mighty love. Mighty love. It filled the whole world. It was all her life, became her whole earth and heaven. So that mighty love is an infant born of child. Infant is ours. The early stage of relationship. Although life born, an infant is ours. Immortal, it walked unslayable as a God, that mighty love. It again stands for the same thing, mighty love. Now, this it's increased by its torment, it filled. See, this its torment stands for passion, her passion. Her passion. Her passion grew. This its is for her passion grew. And this it is for love, mighty love. The whole world, it was all her life. Now this it, it could mean that love, it could mean the whole world. You see. All her life became her whole earth and heaven. Although life born an infant to the hours, that immortal love. Immortal it walked, unslayable as a god. Her spirit stretched measureless in strength divine. What a tremendous thing has already happened to Savitri. See the intensity of grief or the sacrifice which she has done. It is the result of the sacrifice of Savitri. On the altar she is burning herself. She is offering her life like a frankincense and burning up like incense, you see. And as a result of that, her spirit stretched measureless in strength divine. An anvil for the blows of fate and time. So she is now ready. Let fate and time. She has become a strong anvil. She can bear all the things. Her soul arose confronting time and fate. Arose confronting time and fate. Here, of course, is reverse the order, fate and time. But it's the same thing. Yeah. Because the time has come. Fate is always there. Yes. Yeah. The time has come now. Or tired of sorrow's passionate luxury, grief's self became calm. Now this is again absolutely remarkable. It is not that Savitri has become calm, but it is the self of grief which has become calm. The intensity of Savitri's grief is such that that personal grief of Savitri has identified itself to the universal grief. Her personal grief is projected into the universal grief. And the self of that grief, has now become calm. It is not grief, but the self. The being behind that grief, he has calmed down now. Because of the sacrifice, he has withdrawn into the silent self because of sacrifice. And then, of course, dull-eyed, resolute, awaiting some issue of the fiery struggle. That grief self now, okay, let's see what's going to happen. See, come, yeah, awaiting for some issue. See, we have got the same thing here. Amid the trivial sound, confronting time and fate. See, this is again the same thing. The sacrifice of suffering and desire. See, that sacrifice is important. That yajna is important. And here all the fierce question of man's hours relieved. Grief self became dull-eyed, awaiting some issue, that man's question of fiery struggle, some deed in which it might forever cease. It wants to cease, and waiting for that moment to happen, you see. Victorious over itself and death and tears. Savitri's unwept tears had now come out. Victorious over itself and death and tears. The year now passed upon the brink of change. Now this is the condition of Savitri. All we have seen now. See. So see how the whole thing goes on. The seesaw game in her soul. She is happy, extremely happy in the company of her husband. At the same time, that grief is haunting her all the while. And ultimately what happens is, the intensity of that grief is such that the very self of grief becomes calm. The very self of grief becomes calm. To give a very crude example, see, when in our ordinary daily life, or not daily, in our life also, when there is intense grief, you weep and weep and weep and weep and weep and cry, and ultimately you fall calm. You become calm. You fall silent. As if you have exhausted all that you had to say. Helplessly you become calm. You do become calm, you see. There is so much of intensity of grief. You express it, you weep, shout, cry, do all kind of tantrums. Ultimately everything stops. It becomes calm. But this is a yogic action of Savitri. It is not the vital action of Savitri. The vital action in our case gets exhausted, and therefore it becomes, so to say, calm. It is not really calm. It gets exhausted. It loses all its energy, and therefore it becomes, so to say, calm. Here Savitri's case is not that. It is a very deliberate kind of a yogic thing which has happened in the case of Savitri. So this is the yoga of remorse. Yes.
So in this case, what does he mean by dull-eyed? Dull-eyed.
Dull-eyed, resolute. It is a grief. Grief has become dull. Yeah, well, yeah, grief has become, yeah, it got exhausted. Yeah, yeah. But at the same time resolute. At the same time resolute. Awakening, see what for? Resolute for what? Awaiting some issue or the fiery struggle. Dull-eyed because it cannot see what is going to happen. It cannot see what is going to happen. The grief is so much that you cannot really, therefore it is awaiting. It cannot see, therefore it is awaiting. Grief self became calm. In fact, this is the most remarkable phrase, most remarkable psychological description of Savitri. It is not she who has become calm, it is the self of grief who has become calm. Such identity of herself with the universal grief. Dull-eyed, resolute, awaiting some issue of his fiery struggle, some deed in which it might forever cease, victorious over itself and death and tears. This is what he is awaiting for, grief. Some issue, he is waiting for that. Now the poet is moving forward. The year now passed upon the brink of change. The whole thing is going on for the whole year. No more the storms sail the stupendous wing. No more the storms sail no more the storms. Because the grief self has become calm. The grief self has become calm. Sailed stupendously, and thunder strode in wrath across the world. And thunder strode, no more the thunder strode. See, it is understood. No more the storm sailed, no more the thunder strode in the wrath across the world, and still was heard a muttering in the sky, and rain dripped wearily through the mournful air, and grey, slow drifting clouds shut in the earth. So her grief's heavy sky shut in her heart. So the grief also has now become enclosed there. So her grief's heavy sky shut in her heart. A still self hid behind, but gave no light. Savitri does not yet see the light. She doesn't know all is happening in the night. She does not still see the light. What is to happen? No voice came down from the forgotten height. Only in the privacy of the brooding pain, her human heart spoke to the body's fate. Only in the privacy of his brooding pain. So she's alone, private, of the pain which is there in her heart. She's alone. And her human heart spoke to the body's fate on the physical plane. So that is how Savitri is kind of getting prepared for her yoga. See. Now,
Powerful teacher, love is.
pardon me?
Love is such a
Yeah, that's true. Now, if you are interested, you can see some of these descriptions in our Running Through Savitri. Running Through Savitri. What we had just now quickly seen. I mean, that is interesting. Running Through Savitri, pages 11 to 55 in this book. Now, what we are doing, again in the same book, we have got from page 462 to 469. See what we have just now read. Intolerant to the poverty of time, her passion catching the fugitive hour, veiled the expanse of centuries in one day of prodigal love and the surf of ecstasy. Or else she strove even in mortal time to build a little room for timelessness. This is what we have seen last time also. Her soul secluded shut into his soul. All of his speeding days that he could spare, he describes again, from labor in the forest hewing wood and hunting food in the wide sylvan glade, 111.35, what we just now, and chose beating her. This is the joy of union of the two lovers. Youthful and fragrant joy in the insufficiency of rushing time. You are getting this same? Yeah, there you are. Oh, it's there. Good. Only 12 quick months are given to the young couple, and Satyavan would be no more there afterwards. Undeniably, in this strange mixed circumstance of happiness and grief, Savitri is leading an inexplicable divided life. Human Savitri with human emotion and ambience. In the intimate embrace of her lover, she would guard him and treasure the moment in sweetness of the soul. But there is a poverty of time, and the fugitive hours would take away the treasure of love. He would pour himself into her, etc., etc. And then the psychological condition in which Savitri is. Now, this is what the mother says. Despair is never a necessity for progress. Is Savitri disappointed, dejected, remorseful? No. She is not. This is very important. It is not Vishada. What we have got in the Gita, Arjuna's Vishada Yoga, the yoga of remorse. He says, I am going to kill all my friends and relatives and elders and all that thing. Better to give the battle. That is the Vishada. That is the remorse. Savitri's condition is not that. Savitri, she is not despair in that sense. She has identified her grief with the grief of the entire world. Despair is never a necessity for progress, says the mother. It is always a sign of weakness and tamas. It often indicates the presence of an adverse force. See, she goes even further. Adverse force, that is to say, a force that is purposely acting against sadhana. See how powerful. So, in all circumstances of life, you must always be very careful to guard against despair. And this is what we have seen in the case of Savitri. You see how she is. You see. Besides, this habit of being somber, morose, or despairing does not truly depend on events. It depends upon your inner state, how you are, but on the lack of faith in the nature. One who has faith, even if only in himself, can face all difficulties, all circumstances, and even the most adverse without discouragement or despair. He fights like a man to the end. Natures that lack faith also lack the endurance and courage. Sri Aurobindo tells us that for human beings, the degree of success in physical life depends on the degree of harmony between the universal and individual physical nature. So that is the kind of a harmony Savitri has between her grief and universal grief, that relationship, that intimacy. Some people have will which is spontaneously in tune with the will of nature, and they succeed in everything they undertake. Others, on the contrary, have a will which is more or less totally out of tune, etc. Well, you can read that. I given the page number. The date is 4th May 1960. Sri Aurobindo, in his hour of crisis, of bewilderment, the moment which happened in the case of Sri Aurobindo's life, was asked by a voice from within to wait and see. He was in Nellipur jail and he was in despair, so to say. What to do? What is going to happen? And then the divine voice he heard. Wait and see to know what he had intended for him. A day passed, and second day, and a third, when a voice came to me from within. Wait and see. That is Krishna's voice. Then I grew calm and waited. And I grew calm and waited. I was taken from Lal Bazar to Alipur and was placed for 1 month in a solitary cell apart from men. There I waited day and night for the voice of God within me to know what He had to say to me, to learn what I had to do. Same thing is happening in the case of Savitri. Savitri is holding back her troubled human heart and is calm like a hill. She is waiting for guidance. Adesh, word, tell me what I should do. Savitri is already in that state. A power within her speaks. In that condition, the power within her speaks. I am thy portion here charged with thy word. I am thy portion here charged with thy work. As thou myself seated forever above, the divine Savitri is telling the human Savitri, speak to my depths. The divine Savitri who is within the soul of Savitri, she is asking the divine Savitri from above, the Savitri, divine Savitri behind the human Savitri, is asking the divine Savitri from above, speak to my depths, O great and deathless voice, command, for I am here to do thy will. It is that divine Savitri which is there in her soul. She is asking for the command, and it is received by her, and then it gets kind of transmitted to human Savitri, and then begins her yoga. Well, it is there in this book. I have given the page numbers, so it's a long passage, you see. And we'll see some of these things again next time. Often it seemed to her the age's pain had pressed the quintessence into a single bow, concentrating in her a tortured world. Thus, in the silent chamber of her soul, this is what we have seen just now, you see. Savitri received the first set of instructions. She is told, find out thy soul, recover thy hid self. In silence, seek God's meaning in thy depths. This is the command she gets. This is the advice. This is the instruction, Savitri. This is what will happen in the next canto, in the second canto, the beginning. We'll take this thing next time.